Hello and welcome to your Newsmax Daily for Friday, November the 28th, 2025. A busy Black Friday news day and a Friday that feels like a Monday for a lot of folks, unless you work in retail. According to Deloitte, 82% of Americans say they plan to buy something today or this weekend in the store or online. And be very careful because experts say those great Black Friday deals are not always such great deals. Today is also Native American Heritage Day, signed into law by President George W. Bush in 2018 as a day to celebrate and recognize the culture and contributions of Native Americans to the country, which was even recognized in yesterday's Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Love the parade. When Santa comes out at the end, to me, that's the official start of the holiday season. And I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving Day with family and friends. Unfortunately, much of it, the conversation in the news focused around what's being classified as a terror attack on the National Guard in the nation's capital. President Trump spoke about it and delivered unfortunate breaking news on the situation in his Thanksgiving Day phone call with U.S. troops.
Honored to speak with so many incredible members of the U.S. military and to wish all of you a very happy Thanksgiving. Before we begin, I want to express the anguish and the horror of our entire nation at the terrorist attack yesterday in our nation's capital, in which a savage monster gunned down two service members in the West Virginia National Guard who were deployed as part of the D.C. task force, which has done such an incredible job. Right now, I heard that Sarah Beckstrom of West Virginia, one of the guardsmen that we're talking about, highly respected, young, magnificent person, started service in June of 2023. Outstanding in every way. She's just passed away.
20-year-old Sarah Beckstrom of West Virginia and 24-year-old Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf, also from West Virginia, were on patrol in Northwest D.C. Wednesday when they were shot by a 29-year-old Afghan national who resides in Washington State and drove across the country to Washington, D.C. to kill members of the military, and who once worked to help the U.S. military in Afghanistan. We'll start with Newsmax chief Washington correspondent James Rosen.
Authorities say Lakanwal ambushed the two soldiers outside the Farragut West metro station just blocks from the White House a little after 2 Eastern time yesterday. One victim was shot twice, we are told, the other, quote, several times. FBI Director Kash Patel asserted that Lakanwal had been subjected to no vetting whatsoever. The director also described the investigation as stretching from shore to shore, including San Diego and the suspect's hometown of Bellingham, Washington.
The firearm and other materials have been sent to our Quantico laboratory already yesterday for immediate analysis. That work is ongoing. Partnering with the D.C. United States Attorney's Office, we have also executed multiple search warrants around the country to include the subject's last known residence, which is in the state of Washington. The search warrant was executed on that house last night or early this morning, and it is an ongoing process. All the individuals found in the house have been interviewed, and some interviews remain ongoing.
Back in 2021, then Secretary of Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas defended in Senate testimony the Biden-era immigration program under which Lakanwal entered the U.S. in September 2021.
Are you telling this committee under oath that 99% of the people who got on these planes in Afghanistan were vetted by our government before they got on that plane?
I want to be very clear because precision...
Because you're not.
No. Senator, if I may. You are asking me about planes from transit countries, the third countries.
I'm talking about people who got on the plane in Kabul airport.
No, I can't speak to that.
That is former DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. You want to talk about being held accountable. That is someone who was completely derelict in their duties and as much or even more than anyone else should be, needs to be held accountable. And thank you, James Rosen. President Trump also said he's directing a review of all Afghan nationals allowed into our country under President Biden's program. This is what then Press Secretary Jen Psaki said about it.
I can absolutely assure you that no one is coming into the United States of America who has not been through a thorough screening and background check process.
Well, at least she didn't say I'll circle back on that one. This morning, in a social media post, President Trump said he plans to ban entry for all immigrants from select countries, referring to them only as third world countries, didn't name specific countries. That's one of the big headlines this morning, along with it's all Trump's fault for having the National Guard in D.C. For more, we go to foreign policy analyst Fred Fleitz on Newsmax.
We're hearing on liberal networks that the president shouldn't have put them in Washington, that they were at unnecessary risk. I'd like to point out that Governor Hochul deployed National Guard troops to the New York subway last year. I've seen them. I ride the New York subway. These National Guard troops are heroes. They have drastically reduced crime in Washington, D.C. I'm glad President Trump is bringing more of them. And look, if these troops were not there, this gunman would have been shooting at civilians and policemen. It's a terrible situation, but I really salute these men and women for their bravery and their commitment to our country.
Well, speaking of that, Fred, the president is doubling down. Last night when he had his comments from Mar-a-Lago, here he is.
We will not be deterred from the mission these service members were so nobly fulfilling. That is why tonight I can announce that I have directed the Department of War to mobilize an additional 500 troops to help protect our capital city. We will make America totally safe again, and we will bring the perpetrator of this barbaric attack to swift and certain justice.
Tommy's directing more troops, not fewer.
Well, absolutely, because safety and security should be the primary goal of our government. And sadly, it's not, especially in those blue cities. We know the D.C. crime rate has plummeted since National Guard troops were deployed there, as well as in Memphis, Tennessee. There's a lot of good going on, and you're doubling down on something that is good for the American people. The National Guard troops, they're heroes. They are trained to deal with things in the states. And I've seen it, to Fred's point, in New York City. I've seen it in Grand Central Station. The deterrence is really formidable, and it's necessary, unfortunately, in these blue cities.
We also heard this morning at this press briefing, gentlemen, from Kash Patel, the FBI director. He said that the shooter may have had ties to forces in Afghanistan actively. Listen to that.
There is confirmation now that the subject had a relationship in Afghanistan with partner forces. We are fully investigating that aspect of his background as well, to include any known associates that are either overseas or here in the United States.
So, Fred, we're not talking about cells, in some third world nation. We're talking about searching out and seeking out sleeper cells in this country.
This has happened before. I'm sure this individual wasn't vetted before he came in. When his 2-year probationary status in the U.S. was up, I'm sure the Biden administration didn't investigate him. It's so sad that we're still suffering from the incredible incompetence of Joe Biden, and that Americans are dying because of Joe Biden's incompetence. And this is one reason why I think we have to recognize elections matter.
Newsmax contributor Tom Borelli and Fred Fleitz, former CIA analyst and current vice chair of the America First Policy Institute. Gentlemen, we really appreciate your take on a difficult day indeed. We hope you enjoy the rest of your Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
West Virginia Governor Patrick Morrisey, who rushed to D.C. to be with his National Guardsmen yesterday, also spoke with Newsmax last night.
Joining us now, Patrick Morrisey. He's the governor of West Virginia. Joins us now. Governor, it's a pleasure to have you on tonight, not under these circumstances. So I'm so sorry for your loss for the whole state of West Virginia.
Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. How are you feeling right now?
Listen, it's been a really tough stretch. I know most importantly, the families are really hurting right now because they know that this was a heinous act and the type of violence that was used. I mean, this is an unspeakable crime. And so West Virginians, though, are rallying around the Guardsmen. We had the very, very sad news about Sarah, who just passed away. I know that we're rooting for Andrew, and all of our prayers, all the people in West Virginia are behind these amazing Guardsmen. I think it's a tough, tough time in West Virginia, but I will say this. People are being lifted up by prayer. people are being lifted up by the fact that they know that these were really wonderful, courageous, brave people, volunteers who stepped forward to meet the call of duty to serve their state and the nation. And we have to be very proud of them tonight.
Yeah, Governor, you mentioned prayer, and I know that's huge during this time. What do the people of West Virginia need?
Listen, I think that West Virginians are, one, really doing everything in their power to send as many prayers as possible to Andrew, who's still in very critical. He's from Berkeley County, and a lot of people are really looking at that, and we're hopeful we can hear some good news. Obviously, we also know that the families are hurting right now, and the people that served with Sarah and Andrew, I had a chance to meet with them today, on Thanksgiving, came to Washington, D.C. Because we want to let them know that West Virginia has the guards back. That's really critical. We are never, and I mean never, going to be intimidated by these people, these nut jobs who want to come in and take on our people. We have to stand strong. And I'm very hopeful, and I feel very good that there's going to be a full investigation, and we'll make sure justice gets served in the end.
I know, Governor, I know you got their back. The whole country does right now, and they're praying for everyone involved in this, especially for Guardsman Sarah Beckstrom. I mentioned the vetting tonight and all the illegals that have come into our country, including Afghan nationals, close to 200,000. Do you have any concerns like I laid out tonight, that maybe these people it was impossible to properly vet them?
I think that this was a failed policy on the part of the Biden administration. This is what happens when you let people come in and you don't have proper vetting. We need to always make sure that you protect the homeland first. And I know President Trump is doing that. I've been very supportive of that. That's part of the reason why I've partnered with President Trump on the ICE program. And we've had where in the past people really didn't adequately acknowledge the undocumented aliens and what was happening in the state. So vetting is paramount. And I think this is a wake-up call that we have to take a close look at some of the ridiculous policies that were in place in the past and make sure that we're keeping the homeland safe. That matters. And I think we should be reviewing all the vetting procedures.
West Virginia Governor Patrick Morrisey on Newsmax with Bob Brooks. The other big story this Thanksgiving weekend, Russia. No, not that Russia. Russia and the Ukraine war. I've been saying all along, and I'm going to say it again, that Vladimir Putin is nothing but evil, and he is playing everyone. He is not at all interested in ending the war, and he keeps proving that. At least not without ending the war, without getting what he wants. Yesterday, Putin said if Ukraine forces leave the territories that Russia's holding on to now, they will stop combat operations. Well, no kidding. Basically, if Ukraine surrenders and gives Russia the land, then the war will end. He also said, if not, Russia is prepared to fight until the last Ukrainian dies. He does not care. Every so often, some of your favorite primetime Newsmax hosts, Carl Higbie, Rob Schmitt, Greg Kelly, and Rob Finnerty, get together for a roundtable discussion called Unfiltered. This week's Unfiltered started like this.
Any big plans?
When?
Big plans.
You mean
like
for after Thanksgiving?
After Thanksgiving, the holidays, you get the whole weekend.
There's some shopping, right? It's very cold.
It's very
getting
on
cold
winter,
in the Northeast.
It's supposed to be.
You know, it's oddly cold for Thanksgiving week, though. You know?
We're doing something unusual. We're going to a restaurant for the big meal, right?
Really?
I mean, yeah, it seems sacrilegious, but
no cleanup.
No cleanup. You got to tip like crazy.
Yeah. Is that part of the fun? Like like you go there, you don't have to clean up, you don't have to make it. Is that kind of?
You know, it's actually, look, my wife is at her wit's end. We have 2 young children.
Right.
She can't make another meal for more than our family, and there's going to be some other people there. So, yeah, we're trying the restaurant routine, and we will be tipping generously, at least 20%.
Yeah.
And I am looking forward to it. Happy Thanksgiving again, everybody.
Yeah, but the other thing, too, is, you know, when you do all this stuff, the problem is, especially like I have liberal in-laws, you are stuck there. If it's at your house, you just can't like Irish exit and go up to your bedroom. Like they're there forever, and you have to just be there throughout the duration.
I'm amazed that your liberal in-laws have survived this long.
in a house with you.
Well, they don't live with me, so that's or they live
for any period of time, I guess. Yeah,
they're just visiting. No, I say, look, Trump won a year ago. I say talk politics at Thanksgiving dinner. I say talk politics because if you can have that, not have that conversation with family and friends, people that you know and allegedly, supposedly, reportedly like and get along with, how are people in Washington supposed to do it? Have those conversations.
And then led to a great conversation about the Russia-Ukraine war.
I'm also very happy that peace is suddenly on the agenda. I have to tell you, when the Ukraine war comes up, it's just not my passion. No. It's just not, and it hasn't been. And big countries have invaded small countries, and I know I want it over, and so does President Trump. And imagine that peace is on the agenda, and it wasn't. This is going to just last and last and last, and it looks like we might have peace by the end of the year. We already have it in Gaza and Israel.
But on that, look, Trump, no doubt, Trump has done the unable to do. But eight peace deals so far, working on 9. I do want to bring some more domestic into it. Like, we were rocking in the first 100 days, Doge and all these things, and they got the big beautiful bill tax cuts recently, and they did all this stuff. Like, Trump has spent a lot of time focusing on that. I hope they can knock all that stuff out and get back and do just kind of America only for a little bit.
Yeah. I think Election Day 3 weeks ago was a wake-up call for Republicans. Day before the election, Washington Post poll.
Yeah, but they're all blue
Jack
states.
Ciattarelli up by 1 point in the state of New Jersey. Mikey Sherrill wins by 13 points. If you include the 3 points for margin of error, that's like a 17-point swing. Republicans need to focus domestically for the next year. And honestly, I agree. But the average American, look, if he ends the war in Ukraine in February, we'll be in calendar year number 5. That's 9 wars. That's unbelievable. When they do award the Nobel Peace Prize to somebody else, everyone will laugh that it's not going to Donald Trump.
Right.
That's how marginalized that organization has become.
Get it anymore.
But I say that knowing that people, when you say, well, I ended a war in Azerbaijan, people can't find that on a map. People can't find Ukraine on a map 4 years after the war started. The White House does need to focus domestically. I think they will. I think the message has been received. Hopefully, this gives Republicans a chance heading into next November.
I can find Ukraine on a map. Finally.
Yes, yes. But can you find the Donbass region?
Rob and I were there.
East, right?
You guys both went there. Yeah, no, look, I've had enough war in my life, having been to Iraq and Afghanistan, both as a journalist, flying over Iraq as a marine. War is hell, as you know, but sometimes it's absolutely necessary, and bad things happen in war, and that's why it should be a last resort. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you got it, and sometimes you don't.
Yeah, I mean, and to be crass about it, we send our best men and women to war, unfortunately, and they're the ones who would end up not coming home. And especially on a holiday like Thanksgiving, it's a high price. The toughest, biggest, and baddest often go off to that conflict, just like World War II, World War I, everything else, and they're the ones who don't come home. So when we're considering those, we're considering the strongest members of our society.
It's interesting that of a president that is made to be so crass and just this billionaire that they say doesn't care about anybody is so intent on ending a war on the other side of the world.
Lots of
I mean, he clearly wanted to get us out of the obligation of paying for that war, but he also has a keen interest in ending a war that kills so many people. So many politicians couldn't care less about how many kids die in wars, especially other people's wars.
No, and wars in the last century typically have begun with a Democrat in the Oval Office and ended with a Republican. Now, we're not batting 1,000, but you go back to World War I, FDR was in the Oval Office. You think about who ended the Second World War and who ended the Korean War and who was in office, LBJ, JFK maybe, for Vietnam, who ended it, Richard Nixon. Of course, that changed a little bit at the turn of the century, but it's very commonly what has been the case, and it'll be again in Ukraine.
It's only President Trump who I've heard actually genuinely grieve for the parents of war dead overseas. Yeah. He's been great for the Gold Star families. We know that. But to your point, Rob, I've never seen that before. And it's amazing how many stereotypes apply to President Trump that he defies.
And it's wild how easy it is for everybody covering these wars, everybody that's engaged in diplomacy for these wars, to just ignore thousands of people a week dying.
Yeah.
Isn't that just crazy?
Rob Schmitt, host of Rob Schmitt Tonight, Greg Kelly Reports, Rob Finnerty, host of Finnerty, and Carl Higbie, host of Frontline at 6, all chatting it up on Unfiltered. Go on the Newsmax Rumble or Newsmax YouTube page and watch that entire segment. I think it was about 12, 14 minutes long. Very candid, very enlightening, and you will definitely enjoy it, especially if those are some of your favorite Newsmax hosts. And in case you missed it with all the holiday hoopla, back on Wednesday as well, a Georgia judge dismissed the 2020 election interference case against President Trump and his allies. And today is day 2 of Pope Leo's first foreign trip. He's in Turkey for a second day, meeting with members of Turkey's small Catholic community there and meeting with President Erdogan. Pope Leo will then be heading to Lebanon. On Wall Street, the stock markets are open for a half session today. They opened slightly higher after Wednesday's pre-market rally. President Trump is still at his Mar-a-Lago home, scheduled to return to the White House on Sunday afternoon. Make sure you keep up with all of today's news and any breaking developments on Newsmax, N2, and at Newsmax.com, where it all started. Also, make sure you have the Newsmax app on your phone, so while you're out and about or, decorating for Christmas, whatever, you can stay up to date. Don't forget the news starts every morning with Wake Up America Early Edition and Alex Kramer, followed by Wake Up America, National Report, Newsline, on to all of the gentlemen that you just heard from in the primetime lineup. And don't forget about the Wake Up America Weekend Edition, Saturday and Sunday beginning at 7 a.m., Saturday and Sunday Report, Sunday Agenda. There's documentaries, special programming, and much, much more throughout the weekend on Newsmax. I'm Tony Marino. Thank you, as always, for listening. Enjoy the rest of your day, shopping, chilling, decorating, maybe catching up on Newsmax daily podcasts or whatever. Safe travels. Have a great weekend, and keep on fighting the good fight.
News breaks every minute, every day. You need the app, the Newsmax app. Find it free on your smartphone store. Then watch us anytime, anywhere.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.